"That's not yours," the woman shouted as she ripped the little silver bracelet from my hand. "People like you always find a way to steal." "I didn't steal it," I said, trying to stay calm. "I found it under the table." "My bracelet!" a little boy cried as he pushed through the crowd. "That's mine!" Guests stopped eating. Glasses froze halfway to their lips. Every eye in the ballroom landed on me. The hotel's CEO walked over with an annoyed look. "What's going on here?" The woman held up the bracelet. "Your waitress was caught stealing from a child." "I wasn't stealing," I repeated. The CEO reached for the bracelet. He glanced at the inside. His face turned completely pale. His lips barely moved.
"Where did you get this?" "My name is Brooke Dawson. I'm 34 years old, and until that night, I believed honesty always spoke for itself. I worked as a waitress at the Grand Ashford Hotel, one of the nicest places in the city. Rich families held weddings there, business leaders signed million-dollar deals there. Celebrities sometimes walked through our doors without anyone knowing until they were already gone. People noticed the flowers, the crystal chandeliers, and the expensive meals. Very few noticed the people carrying the trays. I was one of those invisible people. Every morning started before sunrise. I'd make breakfast for my widowed mother before leaving for work. She had arthritis that made even simple tasks painful, so I tried to handle as much as I could before my shift. Money was always tight. Every dollar mattered. Still, I never complained to her. She had already sacrificed enough raising me after my father passed away when I was 14. She used to tell me something almost every day. "Brooke, people can take your money. They can even take your opportunities, but never let them take your character." I held on to those words through every difficult shift. Some guests treated us kindly. Others acted as if we were furniture. I've been snapped at because a steak arrived 1 minute late. I've been blamed because someone ordered the wrong wine. I've smiled while people spoke about me as though I couldn't hear them. Working in hospitality teaches you patience. It also teaches you how quickly people judge someone wearing a uniform. But I had a dream that kept me moving. I was saving every extra dollar to become a nurse. It wasn't easy. Some weeks I skipped buying new clothes just to put another $20 into my savings account. Friends invited me on trips I couldn't afford. Birthdays came and went quietly. Every sacrifice had one purpose. One day I'd wear scrubs instead of a waitress uniform. One day I'd help people instead of serving them dinner. I wasn't rich. I wasn't glamorous. I didn't come from an important family. But I had something they never expected. No matter how hard life became, I refused to trade my honesty for an easier road. That choice would soon change everything. Before we continue, let me ask you something. Have you ever worked a job where people looked right through you? Have you ever done the right thing and still been treated like you were the problem? If you've ever been underestimated because of where you started, I'd love for you to join this community by subscribing. Share your story in the comments because I truly read them. And if you enjoy stories about ordinary people finding unexpected strength, don't forget to click like and tap hype. Now, let me tell you how one small bracelet turned my entire life upside down. That evening, the Grand Ashford Hotel hosted one of its biggest charity galas of the year. Everything had to be perfect. Fresh flowers covered every table. A string quartet played softly near the stage. The room smelled of polished wood, expensive perfume, and fresh roses. We had spent hours preparing for guests who donated more money in one evening than I earned in several years. My section included one of the largest banquet tables. Children had attended with their parents, running around until dinner began. Near the end of the event, guests slowly started leaving. Our cleaning crew moved in while servers cleared dishes. As I bent beneath one chair to collect a dropped napkin, something sparkled against the carpet. It was a small silver bracelet. Delicate, beautiful. It looked expensive. I turned it over in my hand. There was an engraving inside. I didn't read it. Instead, I slipped it carefully into a clean linen napkin and headed toward the front of the ballroom. Someone would surely come looking for it. Before I reached the lost and found desk, I heard a little boy crying. "My bracelet is gone." His mother looked frantic. Guests nearby began searching under chairs. "I think I found it," I said, lifting the bracelet carefully. Relief flashed across the boy's face. But before he could reach me, another woman stepped between us. She wore a diamond necklace that probably cost more than my car. Her eyes narrowed immediately. "Interesting," she said loudly. "What is?" I asked. "Funny how the waitress just happened to find expensive jewellery." "I found it under a table." "Did you?" she replied with a cold smile. Several guests stopped walking. She raised her voice. "Were you planning to keep it until someone noticed?" "I was taking it to Lost and Found." "That's convenient." I really was. She folded her arms. "I've seen this before. I don't understand. People struggling with money sometimes make bad choices." The words hit harder than I expected. "I'm not stealing anything." She stepped closer. "Then why is it in your hand?" "Because I picked it up." "So you admit you took it?" "I picked it up from the floor." The little boy tugged on her sleeve. "That's mine." She ignored him. Hotel guests had formed a circle around us now. Whispers spread through the ballroom. I knew something was wrong. Poor girl probably couldn't resist. What a shame. I looked toward my manager. He stood several feet away. For one hopeful second, I expected him to step in. Instead, he simply watched. His silence hurt more than the accusations. "I'm one of your employees," I said quietly. "You know me." He cleared his throat. "Let's wait until security sorts this out." Security? My stomach tightened. The woman smiled, as though she'd already won. Then the ballroom doors opened. The hotel's CEO entered with 2 executives. He frowned at the crowd. "What's happening?" The wealthy woman answered before anyone else could speak. "Your waitress stole this child's bracelet." "I didn't," I said immediately. The little boy tried again. "She found it." His small voice disappeared beneath the adults arguing around him. The CEO held out his hand. "Give me the bracelet." I placed it carefully in his palm. He turned it over. His eyes stopped on the engraving. Everything about him changed. The confident businessman disappeared. His breathing slowed. His hand trembled almost too slightly to notice. The room became strangely quiet. Finally, he looked directly at me. Not with anger, Not with suspicion, with shock. "Where," he asked softly, "did you get this?" I pointed toward the banquet table. "I found it under chair 12. He stared at me for several long seconds. Without another word, he slipped the bracelet into his pocket and walked away. Everyone stood frozen. The wealthy woman looked confused. "So, is she fired?" she asked. The CEO never answered. By the next morning, my manager called me into his office. He wouldn't even meet my eyes. "Brooke," he said, "until we finish reviewing last night's incident, we're placing you on temporary suspension." I felt my heart sink. "But I didn't do anything wrong." "I know what you're saying. You know me." He sighed. "This decision comes from above. So I'm being punished for returning lost property? It's only temporary." Temporary. Sometimes that word hurts more than permanent, because temporary leaves you waiting, wondering, hoping. I walked out of his office carrying a small box with my apron folded inside. As the elevator doors closed, I couldn't stop thinking about one thing. The accusation wasn't what haunted me. It wasn't even the suspension. It was the look on the CEO's face when he read the name inside that bracelet. Whatever he had seen, it had terrified him. The next few days felt like I was living inside a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. Someone had recorded part of the ballroom argument and uploaded it online. The video didn't show me finding the bracelet. It didn't show the little boy saying it was his. It only showed a few seconds of a wealthy woman accusing me, and me standing there holding expensive jewelry. The comments were brutal. People like this always want an easy way out. She probably got caught. Fire her. Strangers who knew nothing about me decided they knew everything. I sat at my kitchen table one night, staring at my phone while my mother's old clock ticked behind me. That sound was the only thing louder than my own heartbeat. My mother saw my face and reached across the table. "Brooke, don't let strangers make you question who you are." "I just don't understand," I whispered. "I did the right thing." "I know, but nobody believes me." She squeezed my hand. Truth doesn't always arrive first, but it arrives. I wanted to believe her. I really did. But another painful question kept returning. Why did the CEO react that way? Why did a simple bracelet make a powerful man look afraid? And why did he leave without saying a word? I could have ignored it. I could have moved on. But something inside me knew there was more. What they didn't know was that I had a plan they never saw coming. For years, while working long shifts and saving for nursing school, I had built something quietly. A small YouTube channel. I never showed my face. I never told my co-workers. I created stories about kindness, family struggles, and people who were underestimated. At first, only a few people watched. Then thousands did. The income wasn't enough to make me wealthy, but it helped pay bills, helped with my mother's medicine, and gave me something I never expected. A voice. The same skills I used to research stories online helped me investigate the bracelet. I searched old articles, archived interviews, public records, anything connected to the CEO's family. His name was Daniel Whitmore. Everyone knew him as a successful hotel executive. But his family's history had one strange mystery. His younger sister, Lily Whitmore, had disappeared from public life 15 years earlier after a serious hospital accident. The family claimed she moved away, but old reports told a different story. There were unanswered questions, missing details, stories that didn't match. Then I found an old photograph. A young girl wearing a silver bracelet. The same bracelet. The engraving finally made sense. It wasn't just jewelry. It was a piece of a forgotten story. I needed someone I trusted. Someone who knew me before the world decided who I was. So I called Olivia Carter, my childhood best friend. She answered on the first ring. "Brooke, what's wrong? Remember when everyone thought I was the problem?" She paused. "Yes, because everyone was wrong." "That's why I called you." Olivia came over the next day with a notebook, coffee, and the same fearless attitude she had when we were teenagers. "You always helped everyone else," she said. "Now let me help you." Together, we organized everything. The old articles, the photographs, the hospital records, the timeline. The more we uncovered, the clearer the truth became. The bracelet belonged to Lily Whitmore, and someone had worked very hard to make sure nobody found it. The person behind the secret was Daniel's uncle, Richard. Years ago, Richard controlled many family decisions. When Lily discovered financial problems inside the family business, Richard feared she would expose him. After the hospital accident, he convinced everyone that Lily had left voluntarily. But she hadn't. She had been separated from her family during a confusing recovery period, and important information was hidden. The bracelet had been donated accidentally with her belongings during a hospital evacuation. It eventually found its way to the hotel charity event years later. Nobody expected a waitress to be the person who found the missing piece. Meanwhile, Richard believed he had won. He told people I was just a desperate employee trying to gain attention. He had no idea I was already holding the truth. A week later, Daniel contacted me. "I need you to come to my family's home," he said. "Why?" "Because I owe you answers." I arrived at the Whitmore estate that evening. The living room was enormous, but the silence inside felt heavier than the walls. Daniel sat across from me. Richard stood near the fireplace. His expression was calm. Too calm. Daniel looked at me. "Brooke, tell them what you found." I placed a folder on the table. "I found the truth." Richard laughed. "From internet searches?" "No," I replied. "From years of records you hoped nobody would connect." His smile disappeared. I opened the folder. The bracelet was never stolen. It was never hidden by a waitress. It was lost during the hospital evacuation 15 years ago. Daniel looked at Richard. "Is this true?" Richard stayed silent. I continued. "Lily didn't abandon this family. Someone abandoned her." The room went completely still. Daniel's voice became cold. "Uncle Richard." Richard finally spoke. "You don't understand." "No," Daniel replied. "You made sure I didn't." I looked at the bracelet on the table. The name inside this bracelet wasn't just a name. It was proof. I showed them the documents connecting the hospital records, old photographs, and hidden financial reports.
Richard's confidence disappeared. "You had no right to investigate my family." I looked directly at him. "You had no right to destroy someone's life." For years, Richard had controlled the story, but now the truth belonged to everyone. Daniel stood up. I blamed the wrong person. He looked at me. "I allowed people to humiliate you because I didn't know the truth." His voice lowered. "I'm sorry, Brooke." Those words meant more than any amount of money. Not because I needed an apology, because I needed someone to finally see me. The investigation that followed exposed Richard's actions. The family faced the consequences of years of deception. But Daniel made one decision that surprised everyone. He created a scholarship program for hotel workers who wanted to continue their education. When he offered to pay for my nursing school completely, I thanked him. But I told him something important. "I appreciate your kindness, but I want to earn my future." And I meant it. I returned to work. Not because I had nowhere else to go, because I was proud of who I was. People who once looked past me now treated me differently, but I didn't need their approval anymore. I had learned something powerful. A person's value isn't decided by their clothes, their job, or their bank account.
Sometimes the smallest act of honesty uncovers the biggest hidden truth. If you've ever been judged before people knew your heart, I want you to remember Brooke's story. Have you ever been blamed for something you didn't do? Have you ever stayed honest while others doubted you? Share your story in the comments, because someone else may need to know they aren't alone. Subscribe if you believe integrity still matters in a world that judges too quickly. Click hype to help this story reach others who need it. Standing up for yourself isn't easy, especially when nobody believes your side. If you've ever faced that kind of challenge, subscribe and become part of our community. Let me know this story helped by clicking hype. And tell me where you're watching from. I love seeing how far these stories travel. Thank you for being here and listening.